So the goal in the next few minutes is to try to give you some more tools in your toolbox so that you can create graphics to be used in your infographic project and of course other things as well. So let's just have a look at this one real quick. Okay, well, nothing to it, right? Just an apple getting a bite out of it. So let's see how this is put together. Let's start with a new composition. 1920 by 1080, 3 seconds, and we'll name it Shapes Add. Catchy. Click OK. And let's drag apple.ai into the timeline. Now, I'll stop right there real quick and tell you, I got the apple from vecteasy.com. Vecteasy is a place that you can get free vectors and do what you want with them. I don't remember exactly which one it was down here, but as we did in an earlier project, it was necessary to take this graphic into Illustrator and isolate the necessary layers, get rid of all the other stuff, and make sure that everything that is needed is in a layer and everything else we get rid of and save it out. And then we've got this Illustrator file. And I set it up as just a simple black and white image for us. So here it is in the timeline. What we need to do now is click on Layer, Create Shapes from Vector Layer. So the Illustrator file is a vector layer, and we're going to make this into a shape that can be used in After Effects. Can you use the Illustrator file? Yes, but for this particular task, we need shapes. So what happens real quickly in the timeline is that apple.ai got turned off, the visibility is off, and now we have the outlines here. We're going to go to the top of the screen and we're going to set the fill color to red. And we'll click OK. And now you can see all of the points in this object. This is just as if you use the pen tool to create this. We just took the shortcut of using a pre-made graphic for this. Now I'd like to add a stroke here, but it won't let me. And so we're going to have to do it in a different way. We're going to use the add function. So right here to the right of the fill and stroke colors, click add, and we're going to add a stroke from here. And we're going to set the stroke to 20. And let's make it white. It might be too big, but we're going to leave it at 20. Let's go ahead and delete the apple now. We don't need it anymore. And let's go ahead and rename this apple outlines layer to something that makes sense, like, I don't know, apple. Now go ahead and click on the word apple here just to make sure it's selected. We're going to go to the top and get the shapes tool. Now if you click and hold on this guy, I want you to go to the ellipse tool. And what I'd like for you to do is just to draw out a circle down here in the bottom. And if you hold shift, it will constrain so that you get a perfect circle. And we can see the outline on there. Great. Now go up and get the selection tool up here. It's the second one. It's the arrow. Keyboard shortcut is V. Grab that guy and just bring him, I don't know, halfway or so over the apple. Just enough, maybe not halfway, just enough for a bite out of the apple. Okay. Now go ahead and click on apple again to make sure that it's selected right here. Then I want you to click on the add function. It's the same as the add function up here. I want you to click on add and choose merge paths. And notice what happened up here. Now we have this outline that encompasses both shapes. The shapes are essentially combined into one. Now what we really need is to make a bite out of the apple. We don't want the whole shape there. So what we're going to do is come down to merge paths, twirl it down, and change add to subtract. And that's the opposite of the function that we need. So just to make things easier here, we've got these things named kind of funny. Here's group 1. Let's go ahead and rename group 1, hit the enter key, and we'll name it apple shape. And let's go to the ellipse right here, and we'll name ellipse bite. Okay, so let's go ahead and twirl these guys up. so that all we see is the shapes themselves. We don't even need merge paths anymore. And what we want to do is take apple shape and drag it above bite. And now we have a bite out of the apple. The cool part is that we can animate this bite right here. We can animate this circle, and that's what we're going to do next. So let's come out to 15 frames on the timeline, and let's twirl down the bite shape, and let's go to ellipse path 1, and we're going to animate position. So let's just go ahead and set a keyframe right there. Now we'll back up just a couple of frames to 12 or 13 frames or so. This doesn't need to be a long drawn out animation. And here we've got our two properties for position, horizontal and vertical. We're just going to move the horizontal position just off of the apple. Now when the animation occurs, choke, we just take a little bite out of the apple. I added a little crunch sound effect. You can do that if you like. I'll go ahead and leave that in there for you. Got that from freesound.org. Lots of good free sound effects there. And let's just twirl up the apple. Don't need to see any of that stuff anymore. And that's our completed apple bite. Let's move on and look at some of these other functions. Now, the idea here is that you can take these concepts and use them in different ways. Now that I've twirled this up, let's go ahead and twirl it back down again. Let's look at some of these other functions that are available inside the add function. So right here next to contents, just like before, we're going to click the add function. We're going to skip offset paths for now. We're going to go to pucker and bloat. Let's see what happens with pucker and bloat. Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, let's make the apple into a horse apple. I don't know. Let's go look at the settings for pucker and bloat real quick. Just twirl down on pucker and bloat. And there you'll see only one thing, amount. And there's a positive and a negative setting here. If you decide this is something you want, then good for you. Use it if you like. Haven't found much use for this, but sometimes it comes in handy. So again, there's a positive and negative amount, and it can be animated. Let's go ahead and delete pucker and bloat. So just select it. It's already selected. Hit the delete key on the keyboard, and it's gone. Let's try again with the add function. Add repeater. Let's see what repeater does. Okay, it makes copies. This is kind of cool because this can be animated in a lot of different ways. It's an easy way that you can make repeating shapes, patterns, tiles, and so forth. There also is a tile effect, multiple different tile effects. CC tile, if you were to type it in over here, you would see some tiling. CC tile, CC tiler. This one has a whole lot more variation to it. You can change the number of copies that you have. You can change the offset. Watch what offset does. It allows them to offset to the left or the right, or maybe better said, to the before and the after. And let me go ahead and undo that. And we'll go down, and this is a little bit tricky. There's a function here called transform repeater 1. Watch also, there's a transform down here. That's the transform for the whole layer. That's position, scale, rotate, and transparency. We don't want any of those right now. Here, we want to transform the repeater itself. So if we twirl down on that, we'll see all these different settings. We can change the position. We can change the scale, big, small, and so forth. And it sort of makes a little echo kind of thing. We can change. Let's do a little bit more of a position change here, and you can really see how this works. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that you can do with this. Again, if we change the offset, we can have the apple, coming on the screen, flying through, whatever you want to do. It's kind of a cool thing. We have start and end opacity. So if we change the start opacity, let's maybe end opacity is a better one to use. We can fade these guys in and so forth. Just a lot of different things that you can do with this effect. All right, let's go ahead and delete repeater 1. Let's go to the next one. Add. And Just a quick note about round corners. Round corners only works on things with square corners. So right now we have a round object. It's not going to work. Let's instead change or try trim paths. So we go to trim paths and let's go look at the settings for trim paths here. We'll twirl it down and we see start, end, and offset. So what this will allow you to do is to create a right on kind of effect. So here's what we're going to start with here. We need to turn off the fill. We need to turn off the fill for this shape. And so here's the fill function right down here. We'll turn it off right there. It's the bottom one. There's actually 3 of them in there, so be careful. So it's the bottom fill effect. And now let's see what happens with this. We're going to change the start setting. And notice what's happening here. Okay, so if we change the end setting, all right, there we go again. Now, and we can also change the offset. So let's say, we'll bring the offset up to here. And maybe from there, we'll animate this so that it writes on. Okay, so we'll take start and we're just going to imaginarily do this, but we'll take start all the way around here to 100%. And we can set a keyframe and then another keyframe and we'll have that right on, just like so. Again, a very usable effect. It's used for a lot of different things. And if for some reason you want to use this offset function, you can create a little sort of a chase that's going on there. I don't know why you would use that, but maybe. Just understand that it's there. Now, if you have multiple shapes, you can trim them simultaneously or one at a time. It's interesting. I don't know what's fixing to happen here. Let's see. If no, it's still treating them all as one shape. It's because we use the merge paths function. So we only have one path. All right, so let's delete trim paths. Go try the next one. Twist. Don't find a whole lot of use for this, but it's sort of a distortion effect. But let's twirl it down, and we don't have a whole lot of choices here, angle and center. But you'll see if you hold shift, it'll go really fast. And whoosh. Okay. It's kind of cool. I don't know. It might be a good thing for a transition or something, but just understand that it's there. And we'll go ahead and delete twist one, go to the next one, add wiggle paths. Now, this is a fun one because it's an easy way to create sort of a sketched or drawn look. And this thing animates by itself. Okay. Now, right now, it looks like an electric apple, but we're going to change it a little bit here. So we'll twirl down, we'll go paths, and we'll go ahead. Let's turn on fill. Let's turn fill back on. And we'll twirl down, we'll go paths, and we'll set the size to 10. It may be set already that way for you. We're going to take the detail way down to 1. And let's go ahead and change the points from corner to smooth. And now, whenever this animates, you're going to see, okay, well, that's not bad. It's just not fast enough. So we're going to change the wiggles per second to, I don't know, 10 or 20. This is the number of times per second. Let's try 10 and see if it doesn't look a little better. Yeah, there we go. Still a little extreme, maybe. It might need actually a little bit less in terms of the size. Maybe we can crank size down a little. I don't know. There's 5. So it's a little more subtle. Yeah, 5's pretty good. And I might, if I was doing this all over again, I might, change the stroke to maybe 10, even to make that effect a little bit more subtle. Yeah, there we go. So something like that. Again, a very usable effect. I think you can get a lot of mileage out of this with the right project. And let's go ahead and delete wiggle paths. And what else we got? Add. Now, wiggle transform, we're going to skip. Wiggle transform is a little bit more complicated. If you click on it, it won't do anything when you first add the effect. It actually allows you to wiggle things between 2 keyframes. So anyway, zigzag is the next one. Now I'm not sure that this one is all that usable either, but you can see the function already. You'll notice here that this one does not animate like the wiggle function, but it does, allow you to get some, I don't know, interesting effects. Maybe you can, find some use for this. For one thing, it'll create a nice little burst effect if you need one in a hurry. That's a little crazy. So let's delete zigzag, and we're back to our apple. Add the little crunch sound effect in here, and there you have it. So the next thing we're going to work on is some animating functions specifically for text. So let's go up to Project, and we'll start a new comp. We'll name this Text Animation. Again, 3 seconds. We'll click OK. Now, go ahead and double click on the type tool. Double clicking on the type tool allows you to center the text perfectly on the screen. And there we can see the cursor right there. Choose as your font Trebuchet, and let's set the size to 125. So let's go ahead and click and start typing the animate function. If you don't see anything, it's because your text is black. Go ahead and set it to white. To do so, you'll have to just click the T right here and then go back and click on the color and set it. So anyway, just leave it at white. Now let's twirl down the type layer right here, the little arrow, and notice where before we had the add function, now we have something called animate. Let's click on animate and choose scale. Now I do want you to notice that you could do all transform properties here, which is kind of cool, but right now to simplify things, we're just going to use scale. Now notice what we have in the timeline here. Animator 1, and then underneath, range selector and scale. We can go ahead and twirl down range selector to see what's in there. Start, end, offset, and advanced, but right now, let's just go ahead and look at scale. Let's set scale to 0. Now we're not going to animate scale. Instead, we're going to animate start here. So make sure you're at the beginning of the timeline. Click on the stopwatch for start, and then let's go to 1 second, and we'll set start to 100. And if we scrub through the timeline, we'll see what happens. It's animating each letter individually. Let's play that. Okay, kind of cool. Sort of a typewriter effect, only it's scaling up with each letter. Now let's look under advanced, and we'll see we can change based on from characters to words or lines. So let's do words, and we'll see that this is now going to allow each word to animate individually, or we can do, of course, the whole line. Notice the tracking stays the same in these individual letters, just scale up. That's pretty cool. It's a different look. Let's go back to words. And we need to add some ease for this animation. And the way we're going to do this is with the ease low function. So let's just set ease low to 100%. And let's preview this real quick, see how it looks. So it just gives it a little bit of life. Nice. Now that's the basics of the add function. What I'd like for you to do is pause the tutorial and go in and try some of these different things. Blur is a great one. Add some blur to your effect and see how it looks. Try scale, and skew is not really that helpful. Position certainly is. And some of these different things, character offset, character value, those allow you to do different things with the actual characters that you see on the screen. So you can start with jumbled text, and then it comes up with the word that you want and so forth. So these are all, very helpful things. Anyway, experiment rather than having me dictate all this to you. And the last thing we're going to talk about is animation presets. These are little helpers that you can use in a pinch. So let's go ahead and create a new composition. Let's call it text presets. Let's make it longer. We'll make it 8 seconds this time. The reason is Some of these presets are short and some of them are long. So you want to make sure that you're always at the beginning of the timeline, especially if you've got a short timeline. If you're down here somewhere at 5 on an 8-second timeline, you add a 5-second animation, guess where the ending keyframe is going to be? Down here off the screen somewhere. So it makes it a little difficult on you. So just make sure you're in the home setting. So we'll go ahead again and double click on the type tool and we'll type out a line of text. A line of text. Oh, we got red this time. I guess I changed it before. So I don't know. Let's change it back to white. Just cause. More contrast. So if we look over here under effects and presets, you're going to see that there are animation presets. We got all these different things in here. All of these are presets. The one that I want to talk to you about is text. And if we twirl this down, we'll see these folders that are full of these text animations. So that's great. Experiment with each one of them and see how you do. Actually, no. Let's try a different way. That would take forever, right? What I want you to do is notice that there are 3 lines across here to the right of effects and presets. If you click on that, what you're going to see is a setting that says Browse Presets. Click on that. It's going to take a minute because Adobe Bridge is opening. And what you're going to see, let me go ahead and maximize this. What you're going to see is that we are in this folder presets, and here are all the other presets. So we're going to double click on backgrounds. This is not for text, but here's an opportunity to see what all of these backgrounds look like and do. Let's go ahead and just click on orb, and you'll notice we've got a little preview over here. Not bad for a preset. Some of these are nice. Some of them are just unusable. There's an old matrix looking kind of effect and so forth. If you're going to use these guys, change them. Okay, don't just stick with the preset. If you add one of these, go in and change the fractal noise around or change the whatever. Just don't use these as presets. Okay, back to presets here. And we're actually going to go now to text. We are talking about text, right? Yes, we are. Okay, so notice in here we've got all these different things. 3D text. Let's click on 3D text. Double click on it. And we'll click on the first one. And we can see a preview over here. 3D basic position. You'll find that probably 75% of these you'll never ever use, but you at least have the opportunity to get in and look at them. I don't know, you might use that for a title of some sort, some kind of a title sequence. So in order to add one of these to your text, all you have to do is double click. And I see After Effects is down here blinking at me. So I'll go ahead and switch back over to After Effects and let's watch. Because this text was chosen, you're going to make sure that your text layer is chosen before you add one of these presets. And we can just move through and we'll see. All right, well, that's more usable than I would have anticipated. Never used this one personally, but okay, well, yeah, it's, might be your thing. Let's go ahead and press the U key to Uber down and see what we got. This particular effect is 2 seconds long. There are dozens, I don't know, maybe hundreds of these effects presets, but let's go ahead and get rid of this one. We're going to go ahead and click range selector and hit the delete key. And let's see, are we animate? Yeah, looks like we are. So let's do that a different way. Let's just undo to get rid of that. And that's going to take us back to normal. Yeah, looks like undo is the better way to get rid of one of those. We'll jump back over to bridge. We'll go back to the text folder at the top. And some of the most usable ones, I think, are the blurs. Where's blur? There it is right there. Let's double click on blurs and we can preview these blur by word. And I'm sure you can figure out that what's happening here is most of these animations are done using the Animate function that we just played with. These are just presets using mostly the Animate function. So you could change this to blur by letter instead, or blur by line, or set it to randomly blur in characters, things like that. So here's Transporter That one is doing random characters and is a combination of scale, only vertical scale, and blur. Only looks like only maybe vertical blur. No, I guess not. It's just full blur going on there. So let's try, you know what? Let's just use bullet train. I know this is a good one. And so let's just go ahead and double click on this guy. Again, I see After Effects is blinking at me. We'll go back and we'll check out bullet train. Now notice this one, only 15 frames long. And that's it, folks. Have fun playing with these things. I think you'll find that they are great and very easy to use tools that you can put in your toolbox. And I'd love to see you use some tasteful combination of these effects in your infographic project. Okay, good luck. Have fun. Let me know if you have questions.